Hello, welcome to the Citrus Garden. My name is Christina. This is the extended for the Twin Flame reading that's already been posted on YouTube. So if you haven't watched that, go watch that first and come back here. So we're going to continue on how can you shift your focus. So we have here the Philosopher's Stone, which has come out again. And one of my subscribers, Divine Lady of the Stars, I hope that's the right name, commented yesterday on the reading that the Philosopher's Stone is the awakened heart center, which I didn't know, which is incredible because, well, it absolutely makes sense with this card because it is green, right, which talks about the heart chakra. But it was coming through in these readings today. Actually, that's interesting. It's coming through with, because this is now like the third or fourth reading in a row that this card has come out. So there's something absolutely important here about, like, first of all, it talks about having a beginner's mind on something, where the state of being in a beginner's mind is actually incredibly important and necessary because like, if you think about people who are experts in their field or scientists, like, or researchers, people who are sort of at the top of their game, they can have almost like a more limited perspective on a certain situation because they know so much, or they have such a specific focus that they sometimes miss other things that a more open and inexperienced beginner's mind can absolutely reveal sort of a really complex. It's kind of like the energy of, like, I don't know the specific phrase, but it's like from the mouth of babes, right? Like, the innocent can sometimes speak profound truths. That's what this Philosopher's Stone is talking about today. But it's also talking about the dynamic of the reflection, right? So in Harry Potter, in the first book, the Philosopher's Stone, Harry is being like an 11-year-old wizard who doesn't know anything about magic at that point, right? Like, he has 1 year experience of magic, that kind of thing. Very beginner. But steps in front of the mirror, and his reflection, what he sees in the reflection is a version of himself who is free of that sort of resistance, right? And so the reflection drops the Philosopher's Stone in his pocket. So he actually gains this sort of insight or knowledge or an awakened heart center through having an interaction with his reflection. That's what this is talking about. And I feel like that's sort of what is trying to be highlighted in this reading today, of the fact that because you have a reflection available to you in your twin, it allows you to gain access or knowledge that you perhaps in your physical experience have no idea or knowledge about in general because it's not something that you've learned yet or whatever it is, but you have access to their almost like storehouse of knowledge is basically how it's coming through. And it goes both ways. They have access to your knowledge, your experience, and something that you are incredibly gifted at. And sometimes that could be really beneficial in that, like, there may be an area in your life where you're encountering resistance, perhaps because you have too much of a specific focus, which is this perception card, which has come out, that you have such a specific focus that sometimes you can't see the answer that's right in front of you, kind of thing. Whereas your twin, who's an outside perspective, doesn't have that experience. And in a sense, they have this sort of beginner's mind in that specific area, and they can immediately sort of access that thing that's right in front of your face. It's that kind of thing where it's like sometimes you need an external third-party sort of outside observer perspective in order to get the answer to something, right? Because they don't have any sort of that experience or preconceived notions or any of that kind of like thing that might be the exact thing that's preventing you from finding the answer, is kind of how this dynamic is playing out. Because you have here the weightlessness and the perception, right? So this weightlessness card came out in a Gemini reading, I think it was, with this Emperor, right? These two cards together, which I will talk about. So I'll post that reading up above as well if you're interested in watching that, because I feel like that was a twin flame reading that was masking as a Gemini reading, but we'll see. It may resonate for you or not. Okay, but this is talking about the fact that the weightlessness can be experienced. Like, I feel this is sort of like a feeling ungrounded in your physical experience, right? It's like, because you have, like, at the very beginning of when I met my twin flame, there was this feeling of like I was getting a lot of energetic input and downloads and all of this sort of information that felt like it was coming out of nowhere, because I didn't understand what was happening in the dynamic. I didn't understand where all of these sort of like almost like intrusive thoughts, right? That didn't belong to me, that I had no idea where they were coming from. And it was coming from my twin. I just didn't know it at that point. And it can make you feel ungrounded, because it's almost like you have all of this sort of other energy that feels almost like foreign to you at first, right? Because it's not yours, right? It's not yours, feels foreign to you, and it makes you feel ungrounded or anxious or whatever it is. I was having to go on so many sort of like walks just to sort of get rid of all of the excess energy. That's what this is talking about. But it absolutely allowed me to sort of see a different perspective. There were instances in this case when I would get just like intuitive knowledge and understanding about something that my twin was going through, or that he was thinking about, or some sort of past experience perhaps that was absolutely sort of impacting his life at the moment. I would just understand that immediately is kind of how it feels, which is so interesting. Now that I'm thinking back on it, because absolutely that, like, there was times when I would like do a reading for myself and all of this sort of information would come out, like a story or something like that, and then would be later confirmed by him, like when we would talk about it, right? I don't know if he knows that, but anyway, so what this Emperor card is talking about, because it came out with the World, right? So this World is basically what I was just talking about, where like in sort of the spiritual, telepathic, energetic, astral, non-physical dimensions, you absolutely have access to almost like your twin's like full story is kind of how this card is coming through. Their full experience, all the things that they know, all the experiences that they've been through, absolutely are available to you if you sort of practice getting acquainted with their energy and their experiences and all of that. However, it can, if you're not careful, if you're not aware of it, if you're not consciously sort of connecting with your personal physical environment, it can lead to this sort of weightlessness effect where there is sort of an ungroundedness within yourself, where it's like you feel anxious, feel confused perhaps. It's like things in your physical environment perhaps are not working out, that kind of thing. But if you feel like this, there is a way to sort of shut that energy off. And that's what I was talking about in the Gemini reading. And I was kind of confused in that reading because I feel like it was supposed to be a twin flame reading, but I put it in Gemini, right? And so I was confused about it. But now that it's in here, it's coming in through a twin flame reading, it's making more sense to me, where I can say that this energy, this ungroundedness, as much it connects you to your twin, absolutely. But if you don't sort of turn it off once in a while, or just turn the dial down, that's sort of how I experience it. It's like, turn the dial down if they are going through, because these energies are not the same, right? So it's like you are in this period of peace. I'm just going to say you. I'm not going to try and define who it is that I'm talking to, the DF or the DM. You are in this period of peace if you're watching this reading. And your twin is going through some sort of destabilizing event is kind of how it's feeling, where they're cleansing a lot, they're going through some sort of like deconstruction, breaking through barriers, that kind of thing, whereas you're sort of in this energy of peace. And so because their energy is much sort of like stronger, a lot of like things being moved and all of that, you can sort of get pulled into their energy and enter into the state of feeling ungrounded in your physical environment. And so if that happens, there is a way to sort of dial down how much of their energy is impacting yours, right? It's like turning the faucet off, right? Because it is sort of like a faucet, turning the faucet off. And at the same time, if you are going through this experience and perhaps your twin is not aware of the fact that there is sort of this dial, this modulation that needs to happen between the connection, if you're in this environment and your twin is perhaps in this more peaceful state, you can also dial down how much energy you are sending into the connection so that they are not feeling your anxiety when they have nothing to be anxious about, is kind of how it's feeling. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Then we have these combination of cards where it's like the Eight of Emotions, which I feel like is the energy of like the vulture elephant, which is like walking away from things that no longer serve, right? Like going towards something that's better. And then it comes through here. And so I feel like I feel like what this is talking about with this perception card coming out, it's like this card talks to me about like you're so focused on a task that you miss sort of other things that are in your environment or going on, or it's like you're so focused on one thing that perhaps the solution is not clear to you, or that kind of dynamic. And so how this is playing out in the connection where okay, this is the twin, the person who is going through some sort of ending experience where they're walking away from something. You on the other side of the connection will feel this energy, right? Feel it as you're like walking away, but it's almost like an incomplete message. It's like when you play telephone, right? It's like the message as it goes through sort of all of these barriers or boundaries or checkpoints, the message sort of gets lost in translation, basically, is how this is coming through, where it's like you sense that your twin is walking away. I'm putting that in quotation marks just as a disclaimer. You get the sense, because you're tapping into this energy, your twin is walking away. But the message that's not delivered is what they are walking away from, right? It's like because you're getting the message, your twin is walking away, you feel anxiety of that because you assume that your twin is walking away from you or from the connection, right? There's a piece of the message that's missing in that sort of energy transference. And that's sort of where the blockage comes in, where you can feel anxiety or feel sort of the separation, because part of their energy is walking away from something. It doesn't mean that they're walking away from you. It means that they're walking away from something and have perhaps put up some sort of barrier or shield or distance or turn the dial down so that their energy does not transfer into your experience, is kind of how it's feeling. But like these two cards came out together where it's like your twin's walking away from something but absolutely moving towards you, right? And it's kind of like you are having to sort through like seek or reconnect with your inner guidance to tell you that like because it's a mirrored connection, whatever it is that you are doing to move towards union or move toward or make space or whatever it is, however you want to put that, make changes in your life to further align with this connection, they are absolutely doing the same thing, right? But it's like you are having to walk away from something, obviously, change some sort of behavior to allow this connection to come through. And trusting that they are also doing something similar, even if the dial on your connection is turned to low, is kind of how it's feeling. Because I feel like there is this understanding between twins that your energy is shared, or because that implies that there's less energy for the both of you. It's not like that. It's like there's this book that I was reading a while ago where it's like because you have a bigger pool of energy, is kind of how it's talking about. You have access to more energy. It's shared, but it's like a shared resource that is much, much greater than just two people sharing something, right? It's like, it's not a splitting of an energy. It's an energy that becomes much greater because it's shared, is kind of how it's feeling. But anyways, so it's this dynamic where you have the Six of Emotions and the Ace of Pentacles, which is like, Six of Emotions is a very sort of melancholic, nostalgic, looking back to the past kind of energy, which can feel a bit heavy, which is this may be what your twin is going through. And so you may be feeling that as well, of like looking back to something, like looking back to the past, or just feeling nostalgic for whatever reason, when the reality is that they're actually sort of like moving towards you, or moving towards a new start, right? It's like they're clearing out this energy in order to bring this in. But because you're not seeing this part of it, you're only feeling this part, perhaps you may be misattributing your feelings or emotions or energy to half of the story or part of the message, is kind of what this whole reading is about. And so with this Ace of Materials today, because it's matching my shirt, right? It's like this, and this is a significant sort of thing to remember, is that if you are feeling this energy, right, like half of the story or just part of the message, and yet it's like it doesn't feel right to you, you can sort of tap into the third energy of the connection, which has less resistance. Because the reason why you're feeling this is because there's so many different, like, perhaps like physical barriers or your own thought process that provides resistance. It's like the people in the telephone line that are blocking or mistranslating the message that is trying to get through to you. But you can go almost like directly to the source, directly to the connection, to figure out what that message is, basically, is kind of how it's feeling. Okay. And then you have the Death energy, which is talking about clearing out the cobwebs, right? Clearing out the cobwebs, putting an end to sort of anything that doesn't belong, or that needs to be put to an end. I had a dream about dead insects last night, which is absolutely sort of what this is talking about. It's so like things that are annoyances or nuisances or just don't belong to you, you can absolutely just toss out and clean up and put away. Basically, it is sort of like this ending of hardship, or ending of annoyances, or ending of barriers or boundaries, or whatever it is that is happening right now in your connection. Okay, where is an area of growth? Here you have, I love this so much, the crow and the eagle, which is incredible, because I feel like this is the whole idea of like the IKEA thing, where it's like one person has the thing that you need, right? The thing that both of you need, or like will serve the connection in some way. One of you has it already. The other one is about to lay their hands on it. So they're about to get the thing or the key or the whatever it is. And with this energy here, when the crow came out, I heard things are not as they seem, right? It's like you may have sort of the broken telephone line where you're taking your best guess at what the message is or what's happening based on sort of the filters of your own brain, perhaps, of your own resistance, right? That kind of thing, where it's like you have a set of experiences that tells you incorrect messages or broken sort of like part of the message, that kind of thing. So things are not as they seem. So I've been talking about emptiness, right? Is in comparison to the weightlessness. Emptiness, sometimes I've been recently trying to do this exercise where I just imagine my brain as like a vase and just cleaning it out with water, right? Just like cleaning out that energy that would sort of prevent or add stickiness or resistance to what I know to be true when I'm just sort of in a non-resistant state. I hope that makes sense. Okay, and the eagle's talking about like getting a key piece of information, right? A key piece of information or a key piece of something, perhaps tangible. Sometimes it comes through as like a Ace of Pentacles, like about to grab the Ace of Pentacles kind of thing. And then here, so that's an area of growth, right? Remembering that things are not always as they seem, and that it may actually be better than you think it is kind of what it's talking about. And then you have here the zebra, which I love so much because it's this prism energy, right? It's like allowing your intuition, right? So free of resistance, the energy of like being in this sort of like dragon energy of having the knowledge, the understanding, or some sort of truth that you receive through like your third eye, right? So very much like intuition based, and allowing it to sort of shift and change your physical environment. So it's just talking about grounding this energy, right? It's like you are receiving some sort of message, but because of sort of the physical reality of this world, the barriers, like of course physical union, I feel like in twin flames is the last sort of barrier, right? But it's reminding you that you are absolutely in union in sort of the spiritual, energetic, telepathic, astral, non-physical dimensions. And it's kind of like just allowing that energy to ground in your physical environment, because these are both sort of the air elements, which is talking about like the astral, telepathic, energetic kind of dimensions where it is absolutely together, right? It's in union or about to be. And then allowing sort of that knowledge, that connection, that understanding to physically ground in your physical environment right now. That's kind of what this is talking about. Because you have here the Five of Inspiration, which talks about having your energy split, right? This is the broken telephone, right? The message that you're receiving is being filtered through all of your like experiences, all of the if you've had bad relationships in the past, it's being filtered through that experience. So it's like the knowledge that's coming in is that you are in union is being filtered through, oh, but I had a bad experience with that person. It's being filtered through this person who says like, oh, you don't deserve love or whatever it is. You understand what I'm saying? Every time it passes through one of these filters, the message gets distorted in some way. And then it finally reaches you and you're having to almost like remove all of those energies that are splitting your focus, right? It's like having to maintain really sort of strong boundaries with yourself, or with your shadow aspects, or with the negative thoughts that you may have about union or relationships or your counterpart or whatever it is, right? It's like having to really maintain this area of focus and strength. Okay, and then you have here the ecstasy card, which I absolutely adore, because look at these cards together, right? It's so incredible, where it's like this is the message that you are absolutely in union. You're in this sort of beautiful ecstasis kind of energy, but then feeling like split and divided. It's splitting. There's something splitting and not true about that. And it's like going back to sort of the purest form of that message, which is absolutely in sort of the third independent energy of the connection. Okay, and then you have the know yourself card, which I've been talking about. It's coming through with the zebra here, right? With this triangle. The know yourself card I've been talking about as being like, you have a self-concept of yourself within like your, like how you think about yourself, basically. And then there's also a component where other people have an idea or perception of who you are, and having to bring those two ideas together. But I feel like it's talking about you and your counterpart, where it's like you may be seeing yourself as perhaps a lesser version than what you really are, for example, while your twin has a very positive view of who you are, that kind of thing. And having to bring those two ideas together, because how I often think about this is like, there is something about your twin that you absolutely think is beautiful and gorgeous and amazing, and they may have the exact opposite view about that thing about themselves, right? Like that's sort of, and it goes both ways. It's like you can see a beautiful sort of gift that your twin has that they perceive about themselves as being a flaw, right? That's what this know yourself card is coming through with. Okay. And then you have here the 3 of inspiration, meaning like the dominoes are falling into place. This reading is so long, but there's so much information that's coming through. Dominoes falling into place that you can sort of relax a little bit. It's all sort of coming together. It's like there is a certain path or a certain amount of steps that need to sort of take place. You have to follow the arrows on the ground through IKEA, or else there's like, it may just take longer, right? It's like the more you try and take shortcuts, or the more you try and like speed up the process, there's a risk of getting lost in that maze, kind of is how it's feeling. And then you have the 9 of inspiration and the Page of Cups, which I love so much together. This is just talking about like that whole like black egg energy from yesterday, where it's like you are resonating this energy so strongly with all of these diamonds. Talks about like strength and resilience, especially in the emotional aspect, right? And also creating this sort of like this heart space. I was I don't know if I should bring this up. I was reminded of like sometimes you can sort of go into your heart space, right? Like you can if you're like sort of very good at like energy work or reading energies, or even if you're not, I feel like this will still be possible for you, where you can sort of, or just as a mental exercise perhaps, like imagine what your heart space looks like. And like what would you find there? What would you find in your heart, in addition to sort of like the connection, right? Because there's so much more in there. What is it that makes you happy? There's this element here of like your paradise. Like, what does your paradise look like? What does your heart space look like? And I feel like that might be something that you can focus or develop. Okay. I'm going to end with this card, actually. The Modern card, which is so interesting because recently I was watching The Ancient Apocalypse, which gave me insight on this card, which is called Modern. But it talks about the translation process of, like, there is a clear message, right? There's a clear message being sent to you, or like a download or light source or whatever it is that you want to call this energy. The ecstasy energy, this is the pure energy, right? This is the pure energy, the message, the union, the connection that is absolutely real and available to you. But we do have sort of filters of experience, and especially in twin flame connections, because I feel like this is not true of all twin flames, but for most, I feel like the stereotypical, I'm putting quotation, is that there are cultural boundaries, like different cultures, different ages, different set of experiences that filter whatever this pure energy is. And there is a translation process. And the better you get at sort of the translation, the easier it is to come together, is kind of how it's feeling. So the more awareness that you have of your twin's experience, what their energy feels like, because it is going to feel different than yours, even though you are the same. There is a connection there. Sometimes you just need to modify the dials a little bit in order to tap into who you are and not sort of be pulled into their energy when they're going through a more turbulent time than you are, is kind of how this energy is coming through. But you always have access to the third energy of your connection that is independent from the two of you and sort of allows both of you to sort of manifest and bring in what the both of you want to create together in a easier and less resistant way. Okay, I'm gonna end it there. I have Moonology cards, which I will go through quickly. So the first one you have here is Luck is on your side, the new moon in Sagittarius. Communication is key, the new moon in Gemini. Don't let pride get in your way, the full moon in Leo. Don't let your past hold you back, the south node, period. And then your dreams need a practical plan, the full moon in Taurus. All right, I'm going to end it there. Thank you so much for watching. I do have other videos if you're interested in watching those. Thank you for sharing your energy with me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.